and welcome back to Melody and Grit. This week I'm taking you for a behind the scenes look at my meal planning and how I plan a week of meals for two people effectively and efficiently. Recently, I was at a holiday work party and we had to play a game and name two things we were good at, one thing we were bad at. And the two things we were good at had to be unique things, not just usual talents. So I thought about it and I said, I'm really good at meal planning. There's almost no food left in my fridge at the end of the week and we're well fed and enjoy our meals all week. And I couldn't believe how impressed people were. And then I remembered when I first started grocery shopping and meal planning, it was a trip to the grocery store every night. I lived in downtown Chicago, so it made it even more difficult, and I just really learned my lesson. So I have 4 tips to share with you guys today. All right, so my first tip for everyone is to write everything down. Even though you think you might not need to, even if it's a week of just 2 dinners, writing down your meals and also a list of your groceries is absolutely essential. I used to do this in the Notes app of my phone, but now I literally have a Google Doc with my meals for the week and my grocery list. This is absolutely essential. I cannot stress this enough. There's no more going to the grocery store and winging it. And there's no just having an idea of what you might want for dinner that week and getting inspiration from the grocery store. That just never works. You need to have a concrete plan and it needs to be written down in stone. So once I'm in front of my laptop, my Google Docs app, I open it up and I start by looking at our schedule for the week. This part is absolutely essential, especially if you have obligations that are around dinner time. So if I'm working late, I know it's a crock pot meal night. And if my husband has to be out in the cold all day, I know I want to cook a comfort food. You really have to take everyone's schedule in your home into consideration when you make the meal plan. Picking out meals based on the activities of the day really makes the week more enjoyable. If I have a light homemaking day or not a lot of work to do that day, I often make a special dinner, especially if we have something to celebrate as well. We did that twice this week. And then if I have, again, a heavier day, a day where I'm not getting home until late or after dinner time, it's almost always a crock pot meal. If I have a day where I'm just really tired, it might be a quick meal. So I have different categories of meals that I choose from based on those activities that we may be doing that week. So speaking of categories, that brings me to keeping a meal queue. So what's a meal queue? A meal queue is a list of meals that you know how to cook and that you know your family enjoys. And I break my meal queue into categories: special dinners, crock pot dinners, and quick dinners. And then it makes picking out your meals so much more enjoyable and quick and easy. All right, and finally, tip number 4. You want to account for your leftovers. And this is personal. This is based on your experience, both as a homemaker and your experience with your family, their appetites, their portions, what they may like to eat for lunch or breakfast. But you really have to take into account these leftovers, or else your fridge will be just as overflowing as if you didn't meal plan. So I know, based on my husband and I and how we eat, if I cook a pound of chicken in the crock pot, that can last us up to 2 to 3 dinners, or a dinner and 3 to 4 packed lunches for my husband. So again, you really just have to follow your senses and your family's habits for this one, but you cannot overlook this. Leftovers are a really important part of meal planning. All right, I'm gonna share last week's meal plan with you all, just so you have a better idea of how I do it, and it'll also be linked in the description as a blog post so you can refer to it. And just a disclaimer, our weeks are Tuesday through Saturday, so don't let that throw you off. So first day of the week, Tuesday, we had a special steak dinner because my husband was taking an exam at work and I didn't have much to do that day. It's usually my day off. So I had time to cook something special and we had a reason to celebrate. So we had steak in the sous vide cooker. Highly recommend, by the way, a sous vide cooker. We had mac and cheese, which was really good, a little bit more time consuming to make, but so worth it. I will actually link that recipe in the blog post as well. It's one of my own. And then we had salads as well, just for some blood sugar balance, of course. On Wednesday, I worked a little bit later, but I still had time to cook dinner, so I opted for a quicker dinner. I made blackened chicken and citrus salads. They were an absolute hit. They were quick and easy to throw together. I didn't spend a long time chopping, nothing spent a long time in the oven. It was fresh. It was like the flavors of summer in the winter, and we really enjoyed that meal, and there were no leftovers. On Thursday, I had a lot of time to cook. Plus, I knew my husband would be spending a lot of time in the cold that day at work. So I opted for a really special comfort food meal, shepherd's pie. This took a long time to make, but it was such a labor of love, and it made so much yield. I had 2 shepherd's pies, so one of them I froze for a postpartum meal, and the other one we had half of the first night, and then on Friday we had the second half of, which worked out perfectly because I was teaching until really late Friday night. So you can see how I accounted for leftovers, our activities, all at the same time. And then our last day of the week, I like to throw in something quicker and more fun that we can be in the kitchen together doing. So Saturday night was pizza night. And I usually pick up the pre-made dough balls from Aldi or a store like Fresh Time. And you just roll them out with a rolling pin and some flour, put your toppings on, and throw them in the oven. They're done in no time flat, and they're so fun and so special. So if you're to the end of the week and you want to have a special night, I highly recommend a pizza night. All right, so that's it. That was our weekly meal plan, and it was really successful and effective because I followed my 4 rules. I wrote everything down in my Google document, and I went grocery shopping with that list in mind. I was able to access my Google Doc from my phone on the app, so it was a no-brainer. It was really easy once I was at the store. And I also accounted for all of our activities that week based on tip number 3, our meal queue. I chose meals based on the categories of activities and the kinds of days that we had. And I also accounted for leftovers so that we weren't running out of food, but we also didn't waste any food. So this is how you go about your week and your meal planning if you don't want to waste food or finances. I also hope my week of meals provides you with a little inspiration for your meal planning. And I just want to encourage you to do this process. It does take a little bit of time on the beginning of the week, but it creates so much margin in your week when you just really don't even have to think about dinner until it's ready to eat or until you're ready to make it. It really just creates so much margin, and it gives your whole family something to look forward to when you can post that menu on the fridge. And obviously you want to remain flexible, but you can't remain flexible if you have absolutely no plan. So I have found that this way is absolutely the most effective, and I cannot wait to hear how these tips work for you all. So in the comments, tell me anything about how you meal plan and how you might implement these tips, and I will see you next Friday.